Although they've set a snare, a trap, I want you to know it won't work. Ooh, no.
It just ain't one.
It just ain't one.
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 980 AM WDDO, Perry, Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwenette, Westbrooks, and Mr. Dumas.
Good afternoon and welcome to another segment of the NAACP Truth. I'm Willie Dumas, your host, and thank you for joining us this evening. We are looking forward to a very wonderful show today. We have some very special guests that will be joining us by Skype. And those guests are in the form of Dr. Jimmy Smith, the administrator of the Macon-Bibb County Health Department, and also his colleague will be joining us, Mr. Hokeson, who is the Public Information Officer. And so we look forward for them. And as President Westbrooks joins us, we'll be also joined by Skype by President Richard Rose of the Atlanta branch of the NAACP. I believe that's Fulton County. And he has a host of information regarding the legislative session that he recently attended and bringing us some good information as it relates to voting and some of the things we can look forward to in the upcoming year. Certainly, we're happy to continue the celebration of Black History Month. This month is winding down the latter part of February, and we certainly want to applaud all the African Americans that have contributed to the success of the African American community. And so our hats go off to all of those individuals. Today, we'd like to just kind of spotlight one of our local deceased members who have contributed to this community in the field of dentistry. And that's in the form of my mentor and former worker that I used to work with, Dr. D.T. Walton, who was located on D.T. Walton Senior Way, which was named after his father, who was a dentist, one of the first African-American dentists here in the Macon area. And Dr. D.T. Walton was his son. He was a philanthropist as well as a dentist. He was also the first African-American appointed to the Board of Education here in Macon-Bibb. And so certainly he has paved the way for a lot of things to happen through the Board of Education by his presence. And so we salute him today in his work that continues to go on through various foundations that he has set up, as well as scholarships. And so our spotlight for African-American history for the day is Dr. D.T. Walton Jr., who has contributed to this community in the form of dentistry, as well as to the Board of Education. And at this time also, I'd just like to say that the COVID situation is yet in effect, and we yet have to be vigilant in that regard. The vaccines have been put out, and we're going to get into that a little bit with our guest today and talk about the vaccine and how African Americans are perceiving taking the vaccine or not taking the vaccine, because that seems to be, a controversial issue in our community. Before they come on, which they'll be on in just a few, I'm going to go ahead and give you some information regarding Dr. Jimmy Smith as well as Mr. Michael Hokanson. First of all, Michael Hokanson is the Public Information Officer for North Central Health District. In his role, he coordinates all public communications of North Central Health District and 13 county health departments within the district. He works to get information to all members of communities within the district by overseeing the district's social media channels, as well as media appearances, marketing, and other communication activities. We'll also be joined by our local Dr. Jimmy Smith. Dr. Jimmy Smith is the current administrator of the Macon-Bibb County Health Department. In his role, he oversees all health department operations and works with the community to better public health across the county. Dr. Smith most recently served as the Senior Deputy of Health Science in the Chronic Disease section at the Georgia Department of Public Health, where his team tackles the burdens of chronic disease and cancer through support to local communities and health districts. From 2012 to 2018, he taught health courses and acted as the liaison for the academic health department for the North Central Health District in a first of its kind role in Georgia. And so we have some very good professionals that will be here to talk about the COVID vaccines and the participation in this area, just how this community is affected by receiving vaccines and just who's getting the vaccines at this point. So we'll have a lot of information that we can gather from them today. And so we look forward to that interaction. And also I mentioned who will be joining us shortly after those two interviews will be President Richard Rosen, who will be Richard Rose, who will also be joining us here to get some information about the some of the legislations that are coming forth in Georgia. And so we look forward to that information as well. If you've been watching the news, you know that the stimulus package that many of you have been waiting for has not yet gone into law, and so it hasn't been passed as of yet. But I'm sure most of us are anxious to see how that's going to pan out. There's so many families out there hurting, and they are waiting for some type of relief to be given. I believe the deadline for a lot of the programs will be at the end of this month. And so there's a lot of anticipation as well as anxiety as it relates to that. And people are really looking for some type of help and some type of assistance as it relates to a stimulus package. So we are looking forward to them joining us in about 2 minutes. We'll get to ask a few questions. So if you have any questions or comments for our guest today, you can call in, and that number is 478-250-1444. Once again, that number is 478-250-1444. And you may have a question about safety, how safe the vaccine is, adverse effects, any allergic reactions, just general questions that may be a concern that you have as it relates to the vaccine. We want to hear from you today, so be sure to call. And I'm going to give you that number once again. That's 478-250-1444. So call in and ask your questions and your comments, and we certainly would want to address those. On past week, we celebrated at the NAACP our Founders Day, which was February 12th. And we had a virtual celebration online, and it was also live on Facebook. And this organization, of course, the NAACP, is the people's organization in that we work diligently for civil rights for the people. And so we want you to continue to support us, even by joining us. I believe Mr. Heckerson is giving me a call on my line. I may not be able to hear him. Hold on. Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm just trying to get Dr. Smith in. I don't think he received any emails or anything like that.
Okay, maybe the technician can assist with that. And if not, we may have to have you to come on and ask as many questions, but I'll see if they can do that. They're not in the same room where I am, but they can hear me, so maybe they'll come over. And is there a particular email address that you want me to provide them with?
If you wouldn't mind using his DPH email, Jimmy, JIMMIE, period, SMITH, and the numeral at dp.ga.gov.
Okay, I believe that's what he gave us, but I'll send that back to them, and hopefully we can pull him on at that time. Okay, I've got something from our host saying that Dr. Smith is already on. And so he's already on the line. So at this time, there we go. We have both of you guys there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And good evening to both of you. And certainly we are happy you could join us today. And we know that the COVID vaccine is the hot topic around the country. And I'm sure it's no different here in the Middle Georgia area. And so we certainly wanted to have you guys on to kind of give us some indication how things are going right now in the Middle Georgia area. How are the rural counties being affected? Are they getting adequate service as well as those here in the Middle Georgia area? So either one of you guys can kind of jump in and just give us a little info.
Okay. Michael, like I said, could you have more of a purview over the district? If you want to cover that, then I can speak specifically about Macon-Bibb County.
Yep, I can do that. So as of right now, our district, which oversees 13 county health departments here within the Central Georgia area, we have administered almost 30,000 doses of the vaccine to members of our community, which is something that we've been doing since the end of December. So we are pretty proud of these numbers, especially considering the supply issues that have been a constant speed bump in our operations. Because that's one thing that needs to be known, is that we do not have any say in how much vaccine we get. We can ask, but we normally don't receive the specific amount that we ask for. Usually we get quite a bit less. So us to be able to have those numbers through our community right now are very something that we're absolutely proud of. Of course, we're still only in phase 1A of the vaccination process, which is those over 65, those caregivers, certain first responders, and residents and employees of long-term care facilities. So we're pumping through this vaccine as soon as we get it. Unfortunately, we are in a place right now where we have pretty much no vaccine, simply because the supply line issues related to the winter weather have had us not receive any shipments since not last week, but the week before. So we're still waiting on more and more shipments as we come in. But like I said, overall, we're getting vaccine out to those communities that need it. We're based out of all 13 of our health departments. So we're one of the few districts that are actually vaccinating in every single county that we serve, and not just one or two locations, which is, of course, a monumental effort, considering what we have to work with in terms of the vaccine supply itself. So if Dr. Smith, you want to give a look closer at Macon-Bibb?
Sure. As it relates to Macon-Bibb, as Michael had said, we are vaccinating as much as our vaccine supply will allow. He's exactly right. We've had just a few hiccups, which we can't control. So we're vaccinating right now 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. from 9 till about 3 o'clock. We've actually looked to expand that time even 30 minutes earlier and 30 minutes later to try to be able to accommodate more folks. However, right now, we just don't have the vaccine. So to give you an example, on Friday, we had to postpone some appointments for a number of folks because we just didn't have the supply. We also had to do the same thing today. I am hopeful that we will get a vaccine shipment in either late this evening or early tomorrow. And then what we will do to prevent those folks from calling the call center again, we have the names, we have the phone numbers. The health department will reach out to those folks to reschedule them as quickly as we can do it. As you know, between many of these individuals, we're going to receive their second dose, which you should receive at least 28 days after you receive the first dose, but it can extend longer than that. So we're still in that period where they're safe to receive their second dose.
Okay, a question that out of those 30,000 vaccinations that have been given, do you guys break down through different ethnic groups, or do you break it in that form, or do you pretty much just keep it within the parameters of the professionals or that are receiving it, or the elderly that are receiving it, or do you break it down by gender, race, and those types of categories?
So unfortunately, we are, per the state, we're not allowed to break down any data to specific count or specific levels other than what we have in our report. So right now it's broken down only into the age groups that have received the vaccine. And of course, because of the eligibility requirements, most of those that we've given are the 65 and older crowd. Anyone younger than that will be one of those first responders, healthcare personnel individuals, or a employee at a long-term care facility. So that's what we're allowed to break it down to right now. On the state's website, they have a specific look at a breakdown across the state for the ethnicity data, race and ethnicity data for those that have received doses. And of course, it is overwhelmingly white individuals that have received the vaccine. And that's something I know that we are looking to try and remedy by reaching out to members of the community a little bit more and allowing for better access. But of course, our biggest hurdle right now is not anything more than actually having vaccine to begin with. Of course, you can't put shots in arms if shots don't exist.
Absolutely. And so the weather, I guess, from out in the that's come across the northeastern part of the United States has affected that distribution effort, I would think.
It certainly has. We felt it here at the local level, and Bibb County is not the only county that has had to manage that. There have been other counties, not only in central Georgia, but across the state, where the shipments did not come. I want to circle back to the question you previously asked, because it also speaks to, some cases, data can speak to vaccine hesitancy. So with that, I think there are a couple of things to keep in mind when the data becomes available from a statewide perspective to look at who is receiving the vaccine. There are a number of variables that people seem to forget. And that is, one, when you look at the phase that we're in, as Mr. Hawkinson has said, you're talking about healthcare providers, first responders, those over 65, and the caregivers for such, particularly when you deal with the healthcare providers, law enforcement, first responders. There, particularly in the minority population, there will be underrepresentation of those that are employed in those fields. So if you only looked at that and then said, well, who's getting the vaccine, then certainly minorities are not going to have a high number in there. So you have to take that into account. The second thing is, one, there are folks, even within the healthcare realm, that may not readily sign up to get a vaccine. And there are a number of things that go into that. But as we're handling that across our district, the district office has established a call center. They asked that folks call that call center. They have 2 numbers at which you could call. There are numbers of folks answering the phone. but you have to make the call to then be able to get on the list, to then be able to get the vaccine. So there's no one there that is stopping calls from one group or another coming in. We need folks to get on the call line and call. I know that folks may get frustrated because they may get a busy signal or they get put on hold. So what I would say to folks is enlist your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews to make those calls for you, have that information available so that the call center can serve you when your turn comes up and they're able to pick up that call.
Do you have that number that our listening audience can record? Do you have that available?
I would say, Michael, I have one memorized. I don't have the 749 number memorized.
Yes. So the two numbers, and both of these go to the call center, so you can use either one. You'll be talking to the same group of individuals that are scheduling appointments. The local number is 478-749-0179. And of course, we also have a toll-free number, and that's 1-844-987-0099. And like I said, both of those numbers will take you to the exact same call center. You'll go through an automated message for some screening questions, and then if you're eligible after the screening questions, you'll go to a representative that can talk you through. Of course, we can only make appointments for vaccine that we have. So if you call when we actually don't have any vaccine available, or we've already booked all of our appointments, we won't be able to schedule an appointment for you at that time.
Also, I've noticed that across the country and many states, they've had issues of the weather affecting them distributing the vaccines to the areas where they're allotted to go. In those particular cases, I've noticed that they started getting shots in the arms from people that they're present where the vaccine would not go bad. Have we had that issue across the counties that you serve? And is there a plan in place that can actually distribute where one county may have more reserved than another to make sure those vaccines don't go to waste?
So I think I know the incident that you're talking about, those individuals that were trapped in the snowstorm that in order to not have vaccine go bad, they distributed to those that were also trapped in the snowstorm. Fortunately, we have not had to experience anything like that. The way that our scheduling process actually works is that we pretty much avoid wasted doses every single time. If we have an individual either cancel their appointment, or if we have any no-shows on the day that we're giving vaccines at a particular location, we'll have our call line people fill that appointment spot immediately so there's not a wasted dose. We know that the demand for this is extremely high, so as soon as one of the appointments opens up because of a cancellation or a no-show, it's pretty much filled the second that our call line sees that there's a space open. So we know that this is a very, very precious resource, and we're avoiding wastage as much as possible. And luckily, we've been very successful in that process.
Absolutely. Now,
one of the other things I would say that we do to help that process, we know the call center will fill it as soon as a vacancy pops up. We're also very careful at the local level of only drawing it up in the syringes as we know the folks are coming. So we're not going to draw up 100 and wait for the 100 to come through. We're actually drawing it up in very small quantities, providing, say, that nurse with maybe 10 syringes as we have those cars lined up so that those 10 syringes are gone in less than 10 minutes. And then we'll go back and draw some up again. So again, at every level, not only at the call center, at the district level, at the local level, we're trying to make sure that not a single dose goes wasted.
Great. Now, I know you've noticed across the United States the apprehension from many African Americans as it relates to receiving the vaccine simply because of some things that have happened in the past. And I know from what you mentioned earlier, your numbers may not be that reflective of many African Americans receiving the vaccine simply because of maybe the category that they fall in at this point. But do you see a hesitance? Well, I guess you wouldn't really see the hesitance because mostly the people make the appointment. So the ones that make the appointments are usually the ones that want to receive it. But have you had any apprehension of people who have scheduled to actually take it. And once they got there, they kind of, decided they didn't want to do it. Have you had any cases like that?
I'll take a first stab at that one. I have, and I will make it personal, even in my own family. When you're the one doc in the family, you get all the phone calls. So my wife's a family doc as well. She gets the phone calls from family members as well. So with that, what we do is we answer the questions and try to relieve the apprehension that folks have. So some may say, well, I don't know what's in this vaccine. Well, do you know what was in your measles, mumps, rubella vaccine? Did you know what was in the flu shot? And so then what we try to do is paint a picture of, let me tell you the current situation. We have a novel coronavirus, nothing we've seen before, that is now unfortunately approached killing 500,000 folks in this country. This vaccine, when taken, may not prevent you from getting COVID, but will mitigate to a great degree the negative effects that you can get from getting ill with it. We know that minority populations are more at risk in many cases because of the chronic diseases that we have to manage from day to day. So things like uncontrolled hypertension, uncontrolled diabetes, lupus, certain cancers, and how we manage those. So when you start to put everything on the table and say, let me look at the options in front of me, the option is to call the call center and to take the vaccine. Now, whether that is done at the health department, whether it's done at Kroger or Ingles or Publix or the mass vaccination site, I won't be greedy. I want you to get to the first possible place that can serve you. As a resident of Macon-Bibb County, I want that to be your health department. However, I know I can't serve everybody because, as Michael has said, we don't have the vaccine to that degree. If I had it, I would be here 24 hours a day. But right now we don't have it. So I want our folks to be safe. And I use our, not in a minority sense, but in a collective sense of this entire community.
Absolutely. Now, one of the callers, and I'm looking at some of the Facebook questions that you probably don't see. And one of the questions is, and I could pretty much answer this one because I've been through there. It says, at the health department here in Macon, is the vaccine administered on the outside drive-through?
Yes, sir, it is. We have worked with our local businesses to provide a tent that will accommodate 5 drive-through lanes. So the individuals receiving the vaccine, whether it's one person in the car or whoever signed up, does not get out of the car. Our nurses handle that interaction right there at the side of the car. We then have you wait after you've gotten the vaccine for at least 15 minutes. If you've never had a history of any kind of reaction to a vaccine, you do tell us you have a history of a vaccine. We wait approximately 30 minutes before we let you go. We're watching those that are sitting in the cars after the vaccine to make sure they're not having any kind of negative reaction.
One other question in regards to that: if an individual who hasn't had an adverse reaction within the 30-minute time frame, but finds himself once they get home having an issue, right, is there a particular number that's given to them that if they have any complications that they can actually call back to the health department or a different agency?
I would say if they're having a complication later that evening, and it certainly is of a serious nature, then I would have them call emergency management services or 911. We are here until 4:30, providing services. So after that time, there would not be anyone here, and I would ask them to reach out to the appropriate people for that.
Absolutely. We've been joined. Go ahead.
If I could just add something to that too. There's also a program that people can utilize to report any kind of after vaccination symptoms from the COVID vaccine, whether they're severe or a mild reaction. It's a program called VSafe. It's something that CDC is one that manages it, and this is where they're able to have people self-report their own reactions to the vaccine, and that allows them to have basically a user-created research project where people are telling them what their experience has been, so they'll be able to see how it's impacting the community. And of course, if they see a increased number of very serious negative reactions, that'll have them go back and look at the vaccine itself to see if there might need to be more information pulled out of it, more information put into the emergency use authorization information for patients, so that more can be known for individuals that might be at risk. It's a very good program that people can use. It just downloads right to their phone with all the information.
Okay, VSafe, is that an app, or that's an app that anyone could download to their phone?
Yep, and it's all the information is on CDC's page. If you just look up CDC and VSafe, it'll take you right to the VSafe health checker page, where you can get some basic information about it and then download the app straight to your phone and start utilizing it after you get your shot.
Okay.
Wonderful. We've been joined by our President Gwendolyn Westbrooks.
Good evening.
And I just wanted to see if
How you doing?
had any particular questions she had or anything. And we'll let you guys, get back to your work and your duties.
I don't. I've been listening to it on my way here. So very informative information is something that the community really need to know. And we can keep people, and hopefully we'll have you back on once any updated information is provided, so we can keep the community and the public aware of what's going on.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And so if it's nothing else you guys want to say to us, we certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know this is a very busy time with the COVID vaccine being at the top of the list of, everybody's mind.
We do have another question.
Oh,
that
okay.
Just came in. It asks, does the health department use both brands of vaccine, Pfizer and Moderna? So that was a question that just came in.
So at this time, we do not use both brands of vaccine. We're using the Moderna vaccine. So that's a very great, a good question. What I would remind our listeners is, whatever vaccine brand you get for the first dose, you need to stay with that brand for the second dose. So certainly if you've come to the health department and gotten your first dose, we want you to come back to get your second. However, if there is another entity that's providing the second, then you need to make sure it's the same brand. So it would need to be Moderna if we did it for your first one. I'll also quickly speak to, there is a Georgia state government, along with GEMA and National Guard, has opened a mass vaccination site at our farmers market here in Macon to service not only our whole region. So the big difference between the two, they are using the Pfizer vaccine. So just keep that in mind. They do ask you if you had your first dose, which one you're using, because they're also trying to make sure that folks do not mix the brands.
Right.
So we've been advised from a clinical perspective, if you start with Moderna, use Moderna for number 2. If you start with Pfizer, use Pfizer for number 2. The big difference between the two is one in how they're handled and need to be stored. One needs to be stored at a very cold temperature prior to its use. And we just didn't have that kind of capability here. They do have that capability at the mass vaccination site.
Wow.
And one other question, since you mentioned that, they are doing, I think the farmers market is still only doing 65 and older.
That's correct. They're still following the phase that we're currently in, with certain aspects of law enforcement, first responders, healthcare providers, those 65, they're the caregivers of those over 65. Unfortunately, none of us knows exactly which day they're going to move from one phase to another. So, but as we get that announcement, we'll respond accordingly.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
yes, ma'am.
We certainly appreciate you guys joining us and sharing that great information with our community. And I'm sure they can appreciate everything that you've brought to the forefront today. And we thank you for taking out time from your busy schedules, and look forward to having you guys back on. So you'll probably be hearing from me. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
You also.
We're supposed to have another guest coming on.
That would be Richard.
Yeah, I sent
Richard
you a
Rose.
second email. I
Okay.
sent second text because I think I had sent the wrong.
Email.
The first time I sent you a second one, so.
Okay. I don't know if I can try to send that over, and hopefully they can still pull him in.
I don't know if so you haven't sent it to him? Yeah.
I sent one. I don't know if that was the right one.
You just sent the second one?
I believe so.
Okay.
I did.
Let me check with them.
And he's supposed to be telling us about
talking about the he was at the Capitol this Friday, related to the different bills that they were introducing in reference to basically voter suppression.
Wow.
That's basically what it is. But he was there. The president of the Atlanta branch was going to share some information with us when he went to the Capitol this weekend. I just need to make sure that he was able to get in. He just thumbs up me.
Oh, he did. So yes. He's actually on. Yeah, he's on. I see him.
I don't see him.
Mm-hmm. He's on. So at this time, if you could join us by Skype, I think he's coming on right there.
Okay, I see him.
Yes. Good evening, President Rose.
I don't see him yet.
His picture's not showing yet, but there he is.
There you go.
And he went back out just as quick. Okay.
Hello, President Rose. How are you doing? Can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay. How you doing? Good to see you again.
Man, I know you going on, and you were at the Capitol on Friday. Can you tell us some information as to what went on while you were there this past Friday?
Sure, and of course it's going on today as well. Went on all day Friday. I was at the House Election Integrity Committee meeting on Friday, and they have introduced HB 531, which as of Friday was 47 pages long, and it attacked every aspect of voting, in particular where I believe they think that that Black folks need. They attack absentee balloting, for example. They forgot about 6 different restraints on that: 2 signatures, picture of the driver's license. Nobody. You have to drop them in if the ballot comes in, you got to drop it in the box during business hours. Prohibiting other organizations from assisting with absentee ballot applications. And in fact, there has been no indication of fraud in Cobb County. They looked at over 15,000 absentee ballots. They found 2 issues. Neither one of them involved fraud. One of them was a signature not in the right place, and I can't remember what the other one was. But there is absolutely no indication of fraud in any manner. This was the most fraud-free election that they have. From one of the Calvin Smyra, the dean of the House, says that the error rate in prior years had been 3%. This past time, it was less than 1/10 of 1%.
Right.
So there's, as I told them, I was able to testify, and I told them they were a solution looking for a problem to solve. There is no problem whatsoever. And we know it's sour grapes. I mean, we turned out all over this state in record numbers. We showed the world, we shocked the world. As Ali,
that's exactly what happened.
And so
mostly all where the lawsuits are filed are in the areas where predominantly African Americans the voter turnout was at a higher rate. So
that is true. So they continue to do that. And of course, we expected that. I didn't expect. Well, I should have expected. All of this is based on untrue statements, and of course, we got enough of that with with Donald Trump the last 4 years. Everything was a lie. He told more lies than anybody has recorded ever of a leader. And so they continue with these lies. They continue making up things, you know. And I had to remind them that this is not a new tactic, you know, to justify slavery. Right. They had to say we were unsuited to take care of ourselves. We were ignorant. Well, we were oversexed. We were undisciplined. We were lazy. We were shiftless. Anything to justify what they tried to do. And then they turned around and did the same thing at Jim Crow. Y'all not smart enough. Well, we smart enough. That's why you have to do all these tricks to keep us down. That's an indication that you're trying to keep us down. You know, the lady who came up with the visionary behind Stone Mountain wrote the sculptor and told him that she wanted to honor the Klan because they had saved us from Negro domination. Now, domination doesn't sound like people who can't stand up for themselves. I mean, that word tells it all, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes, it does. But we appreciate you being able to attend those meetings. I wish I could attend. I'm gonna start. It's just I'm in Macon, and I wish we could just take a bus load up there.
Well, you need to. But you know, you can see it on they are every committee hearing is televised, so you can see it. So I urge people to go to the House Media Center. You can Google it and look at those committee hearings. Take notes because we will be working. We have to continue to work. You know, all those people who are trying to take away our vote this year, they'll come up for election next year. You know, the Atlanta branch has a new tool. We participate with the Action Network, and we have links on our website and our Facebook page. And if you email us, we'll send you the link that allows people to write letters to each of these committee members. And at the point that we going out to the whole legislature, when you fill in your information on our link, it will go directly to your House of Representatives, your representative or your senator, and tell them, and they know it came from one of their constituents. So we want to do that all over this state. We have to continue to advocate on for our issues, because if we don't say anything, silence gives consent, and we definitely do not want to consent to what they're doing up there under the gold dome.
And we just got to mobilize, because we got another election coming up in 2022. So we got to mobilize, and we got to get more people registered to vote, because we know, you know, I just think about looking at the numbers and the people that actually came out to vote. And so, you know, we talk, you know, we hear the different parties talking about that they gonna take the House back in 2022, but what has to happen is the people have to vote.
Absolutely.
So people have to vote, and I just want to say that people are watching. They are watching. They are looking at the fact that people are trying to assist families with monetary monies to help their families and different things, and it's being fought against. So people are watching. People are taking notes as to what's going on in our country. But we want to thank you again for always pushing and being there. And he's a hard worker. He's worked with our branch during this past election and doing the runoff. And I just don't know what we would have did without him. He was just awesome.
Absolutely. And I want to throw this in to our listening audience. You know, we have to we can't always look at the race or the color of a particular representative, because some representatives that represent our race are not, you know, the same color that we are. But we got to hold everybody accountable.
Right.
You know, no matter what, you know, if they're Republican and we're in their district, you know, we gotta hold them accountable.
Accountable.
We gotta.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And in case in point, let me just mention there's a Senate Bill 158 that has been introduced by Emmanuel Jones, a black Democratic senator, that seeks to uphold Stone Mountain. He'd been back before about 6 years ago. He wanted to put a bell on top of Stone Mountain with an inscription, a quote from Dr. King. But that didn't go anywhere. Now he's come back with a Let Freedom Ring monument at Stone Mountain. Anything you put at Stone Mountain upholds the principle of the Confederacy, which was white supremacy. And he just will not be. He's intent because it's personal to him. He wants to say he put up a bill. You know, it ought to be about the people. What Gwen and what we do is all about the people. We don't get personal benefit from leading these branches. It's a service, a sacrifice, but we're happy to do it because it's about the people. We want to make it better for the next generations, and we're going to continue this work.
Right. Well, we thank you so much, President Rose, for coming on. We're going to have you back on, especially to keep us updated on what's going on in Atlanta.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great seeing you again.
You too.
All right.
Yes, we got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So was there anything else?
Well, I brought something to see if they could play it. It was actually one of Dr. King's speeches. And since we're almost at the end of Black History Month,
absolutely,
I wanted to, it's a speech that I've never heard before, but it's dealing with what we're going through now. So I don't know if they're going to be able to play it or not, but I certainly hope so. We're going to see for a few minutes.
Okay, and that's
but while we were waiting, I wanted to see if they were able to get on. But while we were waiting, I wanted to mention I was reading something this last week, and it was in reference to a Mr. Joe Ligon. He is the oldest juvenile that was in prison. He was just recently released this year. I think it was this year, the end of last year. The story just came out, but he's 82 years old now.
Wow.
He went to prison at the age of 15. And so this is something that we look at. A lot of times we look at prisons to the schools to the prison pipeline, and it's basically what happened to him at the age of 15. He was basically put into he went to prison at the age of 15. He was lost in the school system. He had some learning disabilities, and he just fell through the crack, involved in some different things, some robberies, and I think someone died at one of the robberies, but he, admitted that he was there, but never took any part in anyone dying. But at the fact that, the courts have now ruled that, giving a juvenile a life sentence is unconstitutional, but he spent basically his entire life in prison. He's 82 years old now. He came up to have in 2017, he came up to have his sentence actually reduced, but he declined it because he didn't want to be on parole when he got out. So now he's basically a free man. He's is out without any parole or any probation or anything like that. But this just shows how a lot of times when people, special kids that do not have the means to pay for representation, and that are in that type of as far as being the learning disabilities, they fall through the cracks. So this is something, it was just, when I read it, it just kind of touched me, because in a place that something that we're fighting for, been fighting for a while with our kids, schools to the prison pipeline. And this is basically what happened to him. And now he's a free man, even though he's 82 years old. But just show you that, back then, someone that's 15 years old has spent that much time in prison. Wow. Were we able to get the video?
No, they said it wouldn't read.
It wouldn't read. Okay. So What we have coming up next, we're gonna be doing some training. We're gonna have a town hall meeting scheduled, and we'll let you know when that's gonna be. We're gonna be talking about some issues dealing with race relations, something that people really don't want to talk about, but it's something that's important that we need to talk about it as a community. It's been very much alive across our country. So we're going to be having some town hall meetings discussing race relations and also mental health. I'm going to be setting up some meetings with some key people that plays a role with our mental health. I know there's something that we really need to look at as far as some type of facility, because the in the facility in Milledgeville closed years ago. So basically we live looking at River Edge, and then we have Daybreak also, but it's just so much more as far as medications. People, and I see it all the time. I see it every day, where you have people that actually have mental health issue, but it hasn't been diagnosed or been identified by medical experts, and people are without medication. That sometimes medication can help control some of the mental health problems that people have. But the fact is, not knowing what resources is available is one of the issues that we do have. People don't know what to do, don't know where to go, and a lot of times people are not so they're not so willing to give that information. So we just gotta educate people on the resources, where the resources are. Hopefully, I'm hoping, and don't know, that's something that we're going to be setting up a meeting with Atron and Atron Navison Health, because at one time they did have a area where they dealt with people that would have mental health, or but that I know now that has is no longer there. So, but that's something that we need to look at, need to look back at in our community, having something local here where people can be actually hospitalized for, if they have a mental health breakdown or something like that.
And a lot of times it's such a stigma that's attached to mental health. People
Right.
don't, they don't reach out for help for themselves, because, a lot of times it's, nobody wants to say, they have a mental issue,
Right.
even though the actions or their behavior shows otherwise.
Right. And because people look at you different, and they know that, and it's just that we just gotta sometimes, and people, it's just a thin line between,
Right.
because it could be something that just happens traumatic in your life that can just change you overnight. You have a mental breakdown or something like that. So it's just something that, like I say, people do are not diagnosed with it correctly, or don't identify. People just go, they go for a long period of time not being treated, so it gets worse. So, but the point is not knowing and not having the information to get help. That's one thing. So we just got to make sure that people do have resources. We got a lot of people that are incarcerated that have mental health issues, and that's something that we really got to work on. They don't need to be locked up. They need to be somewhere where they can get help.
Right. And that's probably part of the overcrowding that we see in our jail systems.
It is.
A lot of the mental health people are taking up those
when they shouldn't
cells.
be there. They
Exactly.
shouldn't be there. And I know that's some of the issues. So we just gotta, but we're going to be having some town hall meetings regarding race relations. Like I said, it's something that we gotta talk about, because it's basically has affected our entire country, and we gotta, you gotta talk about it. For some, we just got this. I was just telling a friend of mine yesterday, and I was saying that this pandemic that's has plagued our country, and yet we we're not looking at really what's going on. We have this hatred and all of these things that are going on in our country, and God sees all of this. He can stop it when he get ready. But he's trying to get our attention, and we are not
paying attention.
We're not paying attention. And they say that mostly African Americans being affected by it, but you see all different of races that this COVID has affected, and so we're just still just consistently teaching hatred, to hate a person because of the color of their skin, because of their religion, because of their sex, because of their belief. We have to we gotta heal, we gotta forgive, we gotta stop this nonsense, because he can stop it when he get ready. People are just, this hatred has gone. It's just, but a lot of this is been there. It's just sometimes it takes somebody to just bring it out. Just
absolutely,
just bring it full force. So, but we just got to just continue to pray and continue to trust. I just think about looking at some of these movies where, our Black people back then, they prayed their way out of a lot of things that was going on, slavery, being, they just prayed a lot. And I do believe in prayer. I do believe that prayer changes things. So we just got to continue to stay prayed up, but we just got to pay attention, because he's giving us a message, and we're just not paying attention, and this continued hate, it's just like, people are still plotting for revenge and on our country, on each other. We just got to stop and look at what's going on, because he's giving us a message.
And we as a race of people got to treat each other better.
Yes,
we've got so much black on black crime.
Yes,
murders and assaults and those types of things we hear about.
Yeah, and
in our community every week.
And I was just telling my husband the other day. I was telling him that we I'm a product of South Macon, and it's just been so much killing in South Macon. We're just killing each other. It's just, we're not thinking. We got a lot of drive-by shooting. Some of this stuff is happening in the same areas. So we just, just got to stay prayerful, and it's not a one solution that's gonna fix it. But like I say, people gotta know who they are. And I've said this, and I'll stand by it. You have to know who you are, know
whose you are,
before you can basically do anything. Because if you don't have self confidence, if you low self-esteem, it's just a lot of things that play a part in a lot of things that's going on. We don't know what's going on in people's homes and families while people are in the streets, and it's gonna take a lot. Everybody's not. You can't blame the preachers. You can't blame,
just the politicians and your local.
So we gotta come together to figure out something. It's just not an easy fix. So I'm just hoping that, we take heed. We got to stop this killing each other.
Absolutely. And certainly our
funeral homes are, getting rich. If it's, people are dying from illnesses, they're dying from COVID, and then we're shooting and killing each other.
Well, we're running out of time. And once again, we thank you for tuning in with us. And
we'll keep you updated on the town hall meetings that we're planning.
Absolutely. So signing off from the NAACP Truth, I'm Willie Dumas, your host, along with President Westbrooks. Have a great evening.
You have been listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwenette Westbrooks and Mr. Dumas. Come join us next Monday at 4 o'clock p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
Connecting the community through gospel. The new 980 AM WDDO Perry Macon.
And now with somebody so good. It's on fire. Oh, it's on fire. Oh, it's on fire. Yeah, now with somebody so good. It's on fire. Oh, burning with the Holy Ghost. Come on, let's sing it again. I'm with somebody so good. It's on fire. Yeah, yeah. It's on fire. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm with somebody so good. It's on fire. Oh, burning with the Holy Ghost. Come on, children, now with somebody so good. It's on fire. Yeah. It's on fire. Yeah. It's on fire. Yeah, with somebody so good. It's on fire. Yeah, burning with the Holy Ghost. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all in one place, they were all in one accord. And suddenly there came a sound like a rushing mighty wind.